It's great to be here today, and I believe most of you know me. But for those who don't, I'm currently the Chief Operating and Financial Officer of Unity Worldwide Ministries, and I was ordained in 2013, but I've been living Unity in some way, shape, or form since I found it in 1989. And I will say that if all the places I go and I talk and I listen, that although it doesn't say unity out there, I hear unity in here more than I hear in many of our own ministries. So I just feel at home here, and I think that's very valuable. So today, we're going to talk about, it says blank slate, where do I begin? Where does one begin? So first, in order to get to the blank slate, we need to first have a discernment of, well, where are we? Do we really have a blank slate? Or let's envision this whiteboard that maybe slipped away. And that whiteboard is full of all kinds of information in your life. So what might be on that whiteboard that you could see in your own lives? I'll just go ahead. Family. There's no wrong answers, by the way. It's whatever is actively in your life that's currently going on. Just call it out. You don't have to raise your hand. Peace, love, relationship, abundance, prosperity, opportunity, isolations. Did I hear taxes? Believe me, I honor that right now, because my wife and I have actually been 2 years in a row. Well, I'm currently engaged with an identity theft situation with the IRS. And you know what? I can say, oh, or I can just surrender into what is and follow the process and look for the good, which will happen at the end of the process. I know that to be true. Or one of the things I want to talk about and really get clear today, or I can be in charge of making it my own personal hell. Why would I choose to do that? Why would any of us choose to do that? That's the important piece. So know what's on your board, on your map, on your canvas. Think of it as a painting. Are there all kinds of things on that canvas that really distract you from your own purpose? Not going to say yes or no, but I'm inviting you into the question. Are we clear about what's ours to do? Are we clear that not everything is ours to do, even if we could do it? For me, I find many of us, that's one of our greatest challenges, is to learn when to say, no, this isn't mine to do. So today, part of what I'm going to offer is some steps to help us create clarity about what is our purpose, so that we can take that canvas. It may have been full. It may even be full with passions and loves that you have, but I'm going to invite us to paint it clean, to paint it white, and to then become really clear about what are the primary things that I've been called to do, and how do I use tools to keep myself focused, and then allow my fellow brothers and sisters of the Christ consciousness to do what is theirs to do. By the way, without micromanaging them in how they do it. And again, opportunities. So I start with, in Myrtle Fillmore, a co-founder of Unity, and her, really the co-founder of the Unity message. You know, what is Unity? That's a totally different talk. In her book, How Healing Letters, which really started when she started Silent Unity in 1890. She says this: I often think these days that we are all in too much of a rush, trying to do too much, and still failing to discern the things that would mean the most to each of us. Now, how many people, by a show of hands, if you're comfortable, feel that that might be true today? And so that's over 100 years ago, she said the same thing. So I believe that we as human beings have this opportunity to discern and to allow ourselves to really get clear. We're really being invited into what is our calling. How many in here are really clear in what's theirs to do? I would say part of the time, yes, and part of the time, I'm in that, well, I could do that, and I'd probably do it well, but is it mine? And that's the question that I have to keep asking. An example of that is really present for me in my office at this time, because last week we made an announcement that Unity Village, or Unity World Headquarters, which is not Unity Worldwide Ministries, has decided in their discernment process, education is not theirs to do. That's pretty huge. It has a lot of people unsettled. So what did they do? They came to us and said, we believe that this is yours to do, and we want to gift this to you. So we're actually, many of us in leadership, we're in this prayer. We pray that we have the capacity to receive this gift. Because in truth, we believe that it is ours to do. We're the ones who hold credentials of people who've been educated, so why wouldn't we be in the process of educating them also? And that's a debatable point, but the point is it creates clarity and consistency in the education process. So that's just an example of how this can come up in our everyday lives, because their board was working on this for an entire year and they dropped it on us a month ago. Which, again, it's fine. We don't have to say yes, but we see that this really is ours to do. So many times in our life, we get to this point where we need to rediscern. And I want to talk about some tools that help move us from, Joe talked about chaos. Chaos can be a very beautiful and positive thing if we know what its purpose is. So we don't want to have chaos as disorder be driving our life. We want to take the energy that chaos does in creation, and we want to give it order. We want to give it clarity. So for me, when we take chaos and we work with it to create clarity, then we're doing exactly what we're asked to do. So first, for me, what is the first thing we do whenever we're challenged? Or if not, I ask, what is the first thing that I would suggest would be excellent to do when you're feeling challenged? Breath. Did I hear breath? Breathe. It's breathe. Breathe and ground. It's that simple. Breathe and ground. This morning I was looking at Facebook, and I do look at Facebook occasionally, not as much as I used to before I had the job that I have. But there was a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Zen Buddhist monk, that talked about this. It says, freedom is possible. One in-breath alone is enough to set you free. Free from regrets about the past, free from worry about the future, and free from the projects that are currently at hand. It's in this state of freedom that you'll make better, clearer decisions. The next time any of us has a decision to make, be sure and breathe in and out first. And if it feels really heavy, keep breathing in and out until you surrender into spirit, till you surrender into Mother Earth, holding you solid, that your roots are there, that your foundation is there. That's when it's time to move to the question. Until you are centered and at peace, you're really not going to be serving anyone. And that's just really easy to remember. It's as simple as breathing. But sometimes we allow breathing to become so simple that we forget how to breathe. Right? It's just the natural state of being. True breathing is breathing all the way into the diaphragm, allowing yourself to be filled in every cell with all the oxygen, and then releasing anything that's not there. It allows you to move to that state of peace. And if we allow ourselves to know when that state of peace is, it becomes more and more apparent to us when we're there. And so if you don't feel there right away, then you should, of course, beat yourself up, right? No. Never. Never beat yourself up. There's never a reason to beat yourself up. There might be a reason to discern a situation that maybe you want to make a different decision about in the future, but that's still not a reason to beat yourself up. There can never be a time that you ought to be beating yourself up. Because again, who are we as a birthright? We are each the Christ consciousness in expression. And that consciousness is always moving toward the highest and best when we allow it to come forth in ourselves. So I'm asking us to remember that simple thing about breathing. Then we move into the silence. We've practiced silence a little bit today, but silence is an extremely powerful tool. And I want us all to know that we can move into that silence no matter what we're doing. If we're in the middle of even directly being part of a serious debate, is it possible to be in the silence and still be engaged? It is possible. It takes energy and effort. And it means that we really need to be surrendering into that moment so that we're allowing ourselves to hear what's being said, and we're taking the time necessary to create the clarity of our articulation so that we can move to hopefully a better agreed upon state. The goal for me is I don't have the best answer all the time. And I don't necessarily think you have the best answer all the time. But together I know the best answer is in there if we're willing to allow that to come forth. So that's what I want us to really be working on today in the silence. There's never a time. And when we take as much time in the silence as we need, the answer doesn't always come just like that. Or maybe it did and we're just resistant to it right now. And that's okay, because who are we? We're spiritual beings living a human experience. And that humanness, and there's nothing wrong with humanness, but that will sometimes get in our way. And it won't allow us the ability to come to the highest and clearest and best answer, one that serves everyone around us. So we often hear it said, let go and let God. Be willing for your own personal answer to not be all of the good. Allow yourself to find a way to take all of this collaboration and to transform it into a way we can all best be served. Then I want us to talk about, once we've come to that place of silence, then it's our time. We've painted the board completely white. Now it's our time to discern what is ours to do, to come up with those key values or principles. Joe spoke them as an example here at Unity Fellowship. You call those values principles. And what are they for here? They're inclusiveness, their integrity, humility, compassion, transparency, and generosity. Each one of us knows of all the values, and there's many value tests out there. But we know what we're being called to express with most clarity and purpose. I'll admit that I am often challenged by the idea that, I can be all these things. And there's one that has 52, there's another one I've seen that has 200. Well, we can't put all of our energy into all those values. And we must remember that we're not the only Christ in expression. Each one of us in this room, each one of us in the world, whether they understand it or not, is a full expression of the Christ consciousness. So what is really singing to us to do? Allow that discernment process to come forth. You may ask, well, what's the proper number that I should be using? You know what? I can't answer that question. There's certain organizational system structure right now in the business world that says, what are your 3 things to do? And if those 3 things aren't what you're doing, then you have to be willing to say, I'm letting go of those things because I'm being called to do this. So maybe it's 3, maybe it's 5. There's 6 here at Harmony. There is no exact number. But you can test yourself to see what are those things that I am really being called as my values, to be an expression so that I can be all that I've been called to be. And what are we called to be? We're called to be all the Christ that we were asked to be in the creation of our earthly journey. Every situation in life that comes our way, we're able to then evaluate and compare that which we're being asked to do to these values that we've established. So we've created a benchmark. We have a test set. So when you have a new question being asked, is this mine to do? You compare it to your values, and if it doesn't meet your value page, let me say this, easily, then that's not yours to do. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't support moving that to a place or to someone that you know had a value set that fits perfectly for them and invite them into doing that. It seems to me that my example with Unity is that's part of the process that happened between these 2 organizations. So that can happen in our own lives and everything that we do, whether it's in family, whether it's in our job, it doesn't matter what the choice is. If you know your values, you've established your values, you can ask the question, does this fit my purpose? And guess what? It's okay to say no. How many people feel comfortable with it's okay to say no? That's good. I find in Unity in general that that's one of our greatest challenges, because somehow we don't remember the gospel. Because what does the gospel tell us about saying no and saying yes? So if we look at Matthew 5:33, so this is just after the Beatitudes, Matthew's speaking, and he says, again, you've heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you should not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all. Don't swear by heaven, for it's the throne of God. Don't swear by the earth, for it is his footstool. Or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. What was that? Sometimes you can't even have hair, but and I'm okay with that. So let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more comes from the evil one, comes from the one that is living backwards. Because that's in Unity, that's what we say evil is. It's living backwards. It's living not remembering your essence, your truth, who you are. It is not some evil thing outside of yourself. It's when we don't remember who we are. So be clear when it's yes, be clear when it's no. When we're not clear, what do? We move into the silence. And we look and we allow clarity to come forth for us. We also need to use the power of prayer. The order which has been created by and for us here is supported in the faith of our knowing that we are a perfect expression of the Christ principle. So it's prayer and faith. It brings me to a question because I've been working with this idea of prayer for quite some time now, because I'm a raised Catholic. And so my understanding of prayer today is so different what I was taught as a youth. Because I was taught to pray in supplication for that which I'm seeking. For me today, that isn't what prayer is. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but often when we pray let me first go to this. Charles Fillmore, other co-founder of the Unity Message, in his later life, along with his second wife, Cora, they wrote a book called Teach Us to Pray. And in there they said, quote, "We have been so persistently taught that prayer consists of asking for God for some human need that we have lost sight of our spiritual identity. And we have become a race of praying beggars." Now that was probably politically correct in today's language, but the point is clear. When we pray in that fashion of wanting and needing, then we're not really praying in the alignment of the awareness that we are a perfect expression of the Christ. So for me, it's important to pray unceasingly. And when we pray unceasingly, we know in Matthew 21:22, whatever you ask for in prayer with faith, you will receive. Again, in Myrtle's healing letter, she gives lots of examples where people come back week after week asking for the same thing. It's fine to ask for the same thing, but normally what I found in my experience is that when we keep coming back asking for the same thing, we're either not feeling worthy to receive the answer we're seeking, or we clearly don't believe that answer can come to us for some other reason. Although I would probably argue that it keeps coming back to worthiness, to not knowing that I'm a perfect expression of the Christ in action. Not only I, but each one of us. That's why we're here, to express our wholeness, our fullness. And I just invite each of us to know that power can come with total grace and ease when we allow it to be present for us and we practice these simple tools of what I call tools of transformation for life. So today, again, I believe that we pray unceasingly, but prayer is in everything I do, it's prayer. Life is prayer. Every action we take is prayer. Because we do things with intention. And intention is prayer-driven. And when we learn that and we be that in all that we're doing, then it just becomes so easy to live a life of prayer. And yes, does that mean I can't hold spiritual space for someone who might not be at the same level of experience or understanding as me, or someone that has more knowledge than me? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that I know that the truth of their being is within them, and I'm going to allow Spirit to be present for them. I don't have the answers for anyone. I have tools to help us see that the power is within us and to invite people into taking that power and expressing it in what they do. And then one final technique for those of us who said, this guy is just in his head. Uh-oh, I hope I have it. And that is, here it is. When we get to the point where we just can't decide, we take a coin. And I got this from one of Alan Cohen's books. Does anyone know Alan Cohen? A great spiritual writer. And I flip the coin, and I just ask the question, and I go heads or tails. And do you know that the answer's right there? It's not necessarily what it's showing me, but the answer, if I am totally prayed up and allowing myself to be present to that particular moment, I'll know whether I resonate completely with that answer or whether that can't be what it is. I've got my answer because I'm clear that what I wanted. And maybe I couldn't say it any other way, but that simple technique does work if we're completely prayed up in alignment with our truth. I mean, we're breathing, we're grounded, we're allowing, we've surrendered, we've done our prayer work, we've done our discernment. So let's just review today what I've said we can use as our tools to transform life into a creative divine order project. It's breathe, which gives us freedom. It's move to the silence. It's discern. Discern what is mine to do. Pray unceasingly with the faith to know that it's either a yes, yes, or a no, no. And if we really just get humanly desperate, we can always flip the coin. Thank you.